Officials say 10 people were shot and rushed to local area hospitals. The shooting took place at a garage near the city's main train station. 2 people who are armed have been detained for further investigation. Officials are asking people to exit the area as soon as possible. Let's go down to NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch, who is in Kansas City, Missouri, with the latest. Jesse, what more can you tell us?
Hey, Alicia, so I want to flag a picture you're seeing right now. This is a live image from just outside of Union Station on the outskirts of the stage area for the Kansas City Chiefs parade. And you can see authorities appear to be putting someone in the back of a vehicle, someone who was escorted over to this vehicle and placed into it based on what our photographer has been able to see. And that is the live picture you are seeing right now. So we're going to stay with that picture on our camera so we can get as much footage of it as possible. But I am going to continue talking about everything else that's unfolding out here. And, you know, if you want to show other images, by all means, but we're going to keep the camera over there so we can get as much footage of that as possible. So here's what unfolded. We were at the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of the celebration for the Kansas City Chiefs. For context, this is a town that loves its football team. This was the back-to-back Super Bowl championship parade and rally. Officials expected around 1 million people could be out here. We have really nice weather. It's around 60 degrees out here. That is something that can always boost the turnout at an event like this. And with so many people in the downtown, that would be like having roughly double the population of Kansas City in this downtown area at the same time. And in this immediate vicinity of Union Station, where the rally was, there were thousands of people out here. The rally had just wrapped up. This was about an hour ago, a little bit more than an hour ago. And then we noticed something did not seem right. We saw people that were running away from the train station. And that is something that you don't expect in the aftermath of a large event, right? Who goes to a sporting event and then runs out of the event? You know it's going to take a while to get out, so you move at a trickle pace. People were running away from the area. At the same time, we saw what appeared to be police officers rushing into the area, some of them even looking like they were jumping over the barricades up along the rally stage. And we also at the same time had authorities on rooftops in the area, including at least one long gun position. And we noticed those teams appeared to be taking the situation, not that they weren't taking it seriously to begin with, but if it makes sense, they were paying more attention or a different kind of attention to what was unfolding. And we saw at least one of the people on these rooftops running away from the gun position and then running back over to the area. So there was a sense of urgency on the rooftops. Eventually, we heard over the loudspeaker at least 2 different times a voice. It appeared to be different voices. So, you know, perhaps one was from officials, one was from event organizers. We heard at least 2 announcements asking people to leave the area. But even after that, there were crowds in the area. And based on what we could see from overhead and what we could hear overhead, I think that it's safe to say that the vast majority of people who were out here, Alicia, would not have realized what was unfolding, even with the sirens in the background. Because again, with so many people out here, you know there are police, you know there are ambulances on standby. And so it's not something that's initially maybe going to raise an alarm bell for you if you hear the sirens going off. But we have had a fairly continuous stream of the sirens going on, even as people milled about, even as they were asked to leave the area. And just to add a little more context to this, we've even had children out here in the last 15 minutes or so, I would say. So there have been families out here, even as all of this was unfolding. And again, we're talking about a small area in downtown crammed with an awful lot of people. And even well after this incident was unfolding, we had people that were making their way out of the area calmly and walking. And I think that just speaks to, if there were a broader threat, it would not have been easy for people to quickly disperse, Alicia. And I just think that speaks to, of course, we're looking at a situation where officials have said at least 10 people have been shot. There are 2 people in custody, according to officials. But just think about, with so many people here and the way that we've been seeing people make their way out of the area, there's only so much faster that people could have been moving. And I think that just speaks to the potential for something far worse to have potentially have unfolded. And it seems that, all things considered, this was a better situation than it even could have been. Of course, you don't want to hear about anyone being shot. But if that makes sense, you're looking at a situation where a lot of people were in a very vulnerable situation for a while.
Jesse, anything we know about the 10 people who were shot, anything we know about the 2 people who are armed who have been detained for further investigation?
We are getting very little information on specifics of those people at this point. We don't have ages of the people who were shot, Alicia, but I can just tell you who was out here. Of course, you had the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, star players. The team was out here. You had thousands of fans. Little children, older people. I saw at least one person walking with a cane, lots of little kids. So just, full spectrum of ages of people who would have been out here as all of this was unfolding. And all of these people were trying to leave a very concentrated area at the same time. And again, they weren't all here, but more broadly in downtown, the estimate was about 1 million people in downtown Kansas City today.
Jesse, as you've been speaking with us, we are learning from the Kansas City Fire Department. They are confirming at least one dead. We're going to continue to bring you those numbers as we have them, let you know when we can expect to hear from officials. A crowd this large, Jesse, in the run-up to this event, what were you hearing from officials about the type of preparations that were underway as it related to security? Again, for something happening in a wide open space, a large crowd on a beautiful day, what was meant to be a celebration. Talk to me about sort of the layers of security that were in place.
Yeah, and of course, officials only share so much, right? Because there's the visible security presence, and then there's the elements of that they don't want us to see. But I spoke to the mayor yesterday afternoon, and this is something they've done here before. This is the third Super Bowl title for the Chiefs in 5 years. So over the last 5 years, this is the third time they've done this for the Chiefs alone. That's not even talking about other sports teams. The mayor said this is something that goes on for months, right? This isn't an overnight thing. This isn't something they suddenly came up with a plan for when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl on Sunday night. So that's the broader situation. But I can also tell you, Alicia, you mentioned the weather. So they were going off of an estimate of about 1 million people based on last year's parade. The weather is better this year, the mayor told me. And that was something they were expecting could up the number of people. Another thing that they were expecting could potentially factor in to the weather is the Taylor Swift effect. We were waiting to see if she would be here. Of course, her boyfriend is on the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. There's been all kinds of attention on that couple throughout the football season. And although it appears she wasn't here, we didn't see her on any of the video that we've been seeing. But even the possibility of her being here because of her star power had officials thinking that there could be a larger crowd. So what we are seeing in terms of the setup, and we were right down there yesterday talking to the mayor, and he told me what we were seeing was built for a bigger crowd potentially than what they had last year because of the factors that contributed to the anticipation of today. Of course, this is back-to-back titles. We've met people who didn't come last year but said they came this year. Back-to-back is not something you see every day, so that's going to maybe get more people excited. The weather is great to be outside in the middle of February. And then, of course, you have people who may not be big football fans, but big Taylor Swift fans who were hoping they might see her as well. And so that was going to draw more people as well, potentially. So just a perfect storm of factors to boost the crowd size. And then you have something like this happen. And you hear, as you mentioned, that someone has died. That, it's, of course, just very unfortunate to be hearing at what was supposed to be a day of celebration for this city and its fans.
We are following breaking news from Kansas City, Missouri. The Kansas City police are telling people to leave the Union Station area after shots were fired. 2 people have been taken into custody. There may also be injuries. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch from Kansas City. Jesse, you were there to cover the Super Bowl parade. It looks like people got out of there in a hurry, and we see one person on a stretcher in that video. What can you tell us? Oh, no, that's an empty stretcher.
So, Katie,
that's paramedics heading into Union Station. Excuse me.
And, Katie, I want to show you what's going on right behind us here. I'm going to have my photographer, Chris, push in. You can see one of the ambulances that is still on the scene here. And you'll also see a lot of people that have red jerseys on. This was the aftermath of the rally to celebrate the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. The expectation was there was going to be about 1 million people out here in downtown Kansas City today. For context, that's about twice the population of the city, all downtown in about the same time period. And as the rally was wrapping up, we noticed that as people were slowly milling about and moving away from the rally area, I'm going to have Chris, the photographer, pan over here a little bit to the right side of Union Station, historic Union Station, off to the right side. To the right of the stage, we noticed that there were people in red jerseys, presumably fans, that seemed to be rushing away from the area. And at the same time, people that appeared to be in dark clothing, black clothing that potentially could have been police officers, again, were quite a ways back. But what looked like people who were rushing in to some kind of situation. At that point, we had a sense that something was not right. We saw people jumping a fence over there as well. And then the other thing to show you is that, of course, with so many people downtown, you would have a heightened security presence. And part of that involves having personnel on rooftops. We had people with binoculars over here. And off in the distance, you can see on the top of that hotel, there is a team with a long gun up there. These teams have been up there. But what we noticed as this situation was unfolding is that one of the two people up on that rooftop rushed back, was running to grab something and rushed back over to the front edge there. So clearly there was a renewed sense of urgency around the area. And you can still hear in the background, we've got sirens going off. And that has been something that has been on again, off again, ever since this all unfolded. I'd say in about the last 20 minutes or so is my best estimate based on what we've been watching unfolding here. And you mentioned that we had footage of someone on a stretcher. And the last piece of this is that we had on the loudspeaker people being asked to leave the area. It was not an urgent call, but people being asked to leave the area. But I can tell you, and you can see there's still several people that are milling about out here. I think for the overwhelming majority of people out here, they may not have realized what was going on up close or in the area of Union Station, because this is just looking like an average day in a park right now. It's beautiful weather. So a lot of people were out here for this celebration. So it's calm out here now, but definitely there was a time where there was this sense of urgency from officials. And again, we're talking about a vicinity that had thousands upon thousands of people broadly for this area and the downtown stretch over about a 2-mile stretch where this parade was going on. Officials had expected about 1 million people, somewhere in that vicinity. It's warm out, so you expect more people potentially because of that. And all of those people were in the broader vicinity of what just unfolded here, Katie.
Jesse Kirsch, Jesse,